Okay, so welcome everyone to Nathan's slot on this year's KOTESOL conference. For questions, Nathan, we'll save those for an allotted time. So,
Yes. Yep. So, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
we'll keep those for later. And if I'll be announcing if you're participating in the Easter egg hunt. I'll be giving the movie title later on in Nathan's speech, so please listen out for that.
Yeah, it'll just randomly pop up. You never know when.
Yes. So without further ado, Nathan.
Sure. So I think everyone here knows me except Linnea.
Oh, Linnea doesn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Linnea. Okay,
So,
so let me do the introduction. Sorry, my bad.
No,
Okay.
it's okay.
So Nathan is an American expat who has been living in Busan since February 2016. He has worked with Epic for 5 years and is currently working part-time as at an academy for his final year in Korea. Nathan began acquiring Spanish as a teaching proficiency through reading and storytelling students in April of 2020. And within 4 months of that, he had sufficient proficiency to begin teaching Spanish to beginners, all the while being an intermediate mid student. And he also began teaching German and Korean via Tprs in 2021 and maintains classes in all 3 languages. Pretty impressive. When he's not absorbed with language acquisition, either as a student or teacher, Nathan enjoys practicing piano, ear training, meditating, yoga, video games, and epic fantasy audiobooks. Yeah, so round of applause for Nathan.
Oh, thank you so much,
Let's
Colette.
get into it.
All right. So as you were saying, during language acquisition time, during time when we're all being a German student, I'd like to reserve the chat for only questions that pertain to you don't understand something about the language, or you have a question about what I'm saying, or even better yet, if you can just raise your hand. There's the Alt Y button, or if you're on an Apple computer, a Mac computer, I believe it's Command Y, that will raise your hand. So I don't know if you want to give that a go to see if you can get your hand raising feature to work. But that way, yeah, it'll bring you right up to the top and I'll be able to see that you have a question. And then you just press Alt Y again and it will, hi Linnea, and then it will lower your hand back down. Okay. So that's that. And then if there are things that you notice that you have a question about from a teacher's perspective, I'd like to encourage you to write those things down along the way, because there'll be Q&A near the end where you can ask those. But any questions that you have as a student that you're not sure about the language, I need you to let me know immediately, because if you have any questions and you're wondering about something, your language acquisition stops. It comes to a screeching halt. And all you can think about is that question that you have. So it's really important that you do that in regards to the language. But for the teaching stuff, we'll say that to the end. I'm actually going to switch the order of, switch the menu slightly. We're doing all the same things. I'm just going to start with the student experience right away. I feel like that's the most important. I feel TPRS is best described through the student experience, just experiencing it as a student. And then afterwards, I'll give some explicit instruction on the method and how it works. And then after that explicit instruction, then we'll open it up for the questions. So any questions you might have about what I'm doing, why I'm doing, how I'm doing, that kind of stuff might be answered in the explicit instruction portion after your student experience. It may not. So if it's not, then please do ask. And then If we run out of time, I have a timer on to make sure we don't. But if we do run out of time, then we can move over to Discord and we can continue asking questions there for as long. It's Saturday and I've got nothing going on. So, and I ate. So, and I'm glad that Linnea's eating. So good. It's totally fine. Please do. This is the wonderful beauty of Zoom. We can do that. And it ain't no problem for me. All right, so let's get right into it. I'm going to be using teaching proficiency through reading and storytelling to help you acquire some German. TPRS, teaching proficiency through reading and storytelling. So I just need to help foster some new, perhaps new mindsets, perhaps not, but mindsets and attitude about acquiring language and what we're going to be doing here. So I want to encourage us to know that we're going to be going slowly. This really should say slowly, right? Let's go slowly. Yet in the long run, if you were to continue with this method and continue language acquisition, it's faster in the long run because we're not leaving any gaps in your acquisition. TPRS is a mastery form method in that we're looking to master, that doesn't mean perfect, but master one little bit and move on to the next before the next to provide a really solid foundation. So we're going to do that. We're going to go narrow with our language, but we're going to go really deep and we're going to have fun. There are 3 rules in my TPRs class. Rule number 1 is that it's my story, so I decide what's in the story and what's not in the story. We won't get to it today with our limited time, but if you were to continue on with this method, there would be opportunities for you to guess what's in the story, and you might end up being right. 2, anything is possible in the story. So we don't question the sanity or the logic of the stories. The story is solely for the purpose of communication and interacting. And the 3rd rule is that only the teacher helps other students if they need it. Because perhaps a student just needs a little bit more time to think about something. And when we jump in there to try and help that student not feel uncomfortable because they're on the spotlight, we actually take the opportunity away from our classmate to recall something and do it on their own. And this can promote learned helplessness. So I'll be the one if there needs to be any assistance, and you can know for yourself what the answer is, and then you can be affirmed when I possibly give it, or learn otherwise. By the way, I have all of you on this monitor, so if it looks like I'm not looking at you, I am looking at you, but I don't have another way to set it up. So please speak German, but you're not forced. You can ask questions anytime in English, anytime. You can also say words you don't know in English if that, or you don't know in German in English if that should happen for some reason. It is possible. I'm not going to get into this. So yeah, just check our expectations. All right. So we're going to have about 40 minutes of language acquisition. This does not mean you're going to be fluent in the German language. Okay. We always kind of hold this weird expectation, like somehow I should have all this amazing ability in the language after just 40 minutes. So just checking that expectation and also just releasing any ideas that you might have about how this is going to go. It's going to make it a lot easier for you as a student. And then serve yourself a huge heaping dose of grace. And this means giving yourself the benefit of the doubt that you are doing your best, and giving us all the benefit of the doubt that we're here to support you and we're all here to encourage each other, and that there's no rush, there's no hurry, there's no expectation that we perform a certain way. Questions? Some engagement strategies, since there will be times where you're muted. I'm not going to talk about pronunciation other than to say, please do not ever try to worry about your pronunciation. Just let it come out. Kids don't worry about their pronunciation. They sound like kids, and we think it's so cute. Somehow, when adults sound like adults that spoke another language for many, many years, we don't think it's cute anymore. I don't get it. But yeah, so just let it come out. Doppelgang means that when I'm asking a student individually a question, you go ahead, mute yourself, and pretend I'm talking to you. Pretend you're Catherine and just answer out loud so you get more opportunities to interact with me, even though I'm not interacting directly with you. You can also shadow the things that I say, which means that you say after me a word or two after I've said it in German, but please only do this if you understand what you're saying. If you don't understand what you're saying, just go ahead, stop shadowing. You can save that for later and just focus on what you're hearing and the meaning. Predict contrast. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Recalibrate to true north. So I have this analogy that in a language acquisition class, we all have this compass. Okay, you all have this compass. And true north, 0.00, is language acquisition that is 100% comprehended by every student in the class. That means you, Catherine, you, Colette, you, Linnea, AC, if you're here, Angela, and Rhea. It means all of you. Okay. And it also means that it's enjoyable for you. And part of the enjoyment is in that it's comprehensible. So our compass, we want it to be exactly on true north, not slightly off to the side, which means that we're still going north. Some people are getting acquisition, but some people aren't. It's not cool. All right. We want to be right to true north. So recalibrating means raising your hand, like I just showed you earlier with your Alt Y or Command Y, and saying, wait, what? Can you say that again? What does this mean? What is this? What is that M on the screen? You know, any question that is bouncing around in your head, please recalibrate us to true north. You're being the smart student who's looking down at their compass and realizing that we've just been wandering off and veering off course. Okay? Questions about that? Gut. Lass uns anfangen. Let us begin. Anytime you hear me say the word Klasse, this means class in German, and you're going to unmute and answer in the affirmative, which is ja. That means yes. Okay, so lass uns üben. Let us practice. And go ahead and unmute yourself if you're able. Colette? Okay, yeah, gut. Klasse.
Ja.
Ja.
Oh, sehr gut. Applaus. Perfect. Perfect. And if I say a sentence, I need you to say, oh, like it's the most interesting thing you've ever heard, because this is going to cue your brain into being like a beginner. It's also going to help you gain some interest in something that might not be that interesting. I don't know. And it also tells me that you understood I said a sentence and I didn't ask you a question. Because when I ask you a question, you need to answer me. But if I just say a statement, I need you to say, oh, and then I know, oh, they got that that was a statement, not a question. Okay? When I ask you a question and you know the answer because I've told you the answer or the answer is on screen, you're just going to answer with one or two short words. I'll explain more as we go along. Let's begin. Lass uns anfangen. So, Klasse.
Ja.
Sehr gut. There is an elephant. Oh. Now you're probably thinking that's not German. You're right, it's not. That's the meaning, okay? So there is an elephant. Oh.
Oh.
Ja, sehr gut. Applaus für Linnea. By the way, am I saying your name correctly? Linnea?
Yes, you got it.
Okay, gut. Okay. Klasse.
Ja.
Ja.
Es gibt einen Elefanten. Oh.
Oh.
Ja. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Oh,
Oh.
sehr gut. Perfekt, Linnea. Klasse.
Ja.
Ja.
Gibt es einen Elefanten? Ja oder nein?
Ja.
Nein.
Ja, ja.
Ja.
Es gibt einen Elefanten. Oh, ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Klasse.
Ja.
Ja.
Oh, sorry, that's German. That's nearly the same thing, right? Gibt es einen Fisch? Ja oder nein? Sehr gut, Linnea. Applaus für Linnea. Ja, nein. Yeah, it sounds just like the number in English. 9. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Oh, ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Klasse.
Ja.
Ja.
Gibt es ein Mädchen?
Nein.
Nein.
Ja, sehr gut. Applaus. Ja, klasse.
Ja.
Ja.
Was ist sehr gut auf Englisch? What is sehr gut in English?
Very good.
Ja, sehr gut. Ja, very good. Ja, sehr gut, Linnea. Gibt es ein Mädchen? Nein. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Oh, ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Klasse?
Ja.
Ja.
Nein. Gibt es eine Pizza?
Nein.
Nein.
Ja, genau. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Oh, ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Catherine?
Ja.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask Catherine a question. But for right now, you're seeing clarified meaning on the screen. You're seeing the meaning of what I'm saying in some German, but you're seeing the meaning of what I'm saying. So when you see only the meaning of what I'm saying, I would like you to answer in just a short answer with just ja oder nein oder einen Elefanten, okay, like that. When we see more German later, then when I ask your name, you're going to say in a full sentence, but that will come later. Okay. So now Catherine is just going to answer with a short answer. So, Catherine,
Ja.
gibt es einen Elefanten?
Ja.
Ja, Applaus für Catherine. Perfekt, perfekt. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Catherine,
Ja.
gibt es einen Fisch?
Nein.
Ja, genau. Applaus für Catherine. Woo! Perfekt, Catherine. Ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Gibt es einen Fisch? Nein. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Oh.
Oh.
Colette?
Ja.
Gibt es einen Elefanten?
Nein.
Ja, es gibt einen Elefanten, Colette. Ja, ja.
Ja.
Nochmals. Once more. Colette,
Ja.
gibt es einen Fisch
Nein.
oder einen Elefanten?
Einen Elefanten.
Ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Applaus für Colette. Sehr gut. Ja, gibt es einen Elefanten? Ja. Aber gibt es einen Elefanten oder einen Fisch? Einen Elefanten. Ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Colette,
Ja.
gibt es ein Mädchen oder einen Elefanten?
Einen Elefanten.
Ja, genau. Applaus für Colette. Sehr gut. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Ja, genau. Linnea,
Ja.
was gibt es?
Was?
Ja, was
Okay, was?
gibt es? What is there? Ein Mädchen oder einen Elefanten?
Einen Elefanten.
Ja, genau. Applaus für Linnea. Sehr gut. Ja. Was gibt es? Einen Elefanten. Ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Linnea,
Ja.
gibt es auch eine Pizza?
Nein.
Ja, Applaus für Linnea. Sehr gut. Nein. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Linnea,
Ja.
gibt es nur einen Elefanten?
Ja.
Ja, genau. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Linnea,
Ja.
gibt es auch ein Mädchen?
Nein.
Ja, genau. Applaus für Linnea. Sehr gut. Ja. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Klasse.
Ja.
Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten und keinen Fisch. Oh, ja, es gibt einen Elefanten und einen Fisch. Oh, klasse.
Ja.
Ja.
Gibt es einen Fisch oder keinen Fisch?
Keinen.
Keinen.
Ja, keinen Fisch. Applaus für euch. Applaus for all of you. Applaus für euch, ja. Gibt es einen Fisch oder keinen Fisch? Keinen Fisch, ja. Es gibt keinen Fisch. Na klar. Na klar. Klasse.
Ja.
Gibt es ein Mädchen oder kein Mädchen?
Kein Mädchen.
Ja, kein Mädchen. Es gibt kein Mädchen. Okay, Moment. Moment. Gibt es Fragen? Are there questions? Any questions about the letters? Do we know what the letters mean?
Is it like male, female, neutral?
Almost, yes. Masculine.
Oh, masculine, sorry.
Yep. Masculine, neuter, feminine, and plural.
Ja.
Okay. Gut. Ja, masculine, neuter, feminine, and plural. Every noun in German has its own gender. So gut. Klasse.
Ja.
Ja.
Gibt es eine Pizza oder keine Pizza?
Keine
Keine Pizza.
Ja, sehr gut. Applaus. Wow. Ja, keine Pizza. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Ja?
Ja.
Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt keinen Fisch. Es gibt kein Mädchen. Es gibt auch keine Pizza. Oh, schade. Oh, schade. Schade. Es gibt keinen Fisch und kein Mädchen und keine Pizza. Schade. Schade. Klasse.
Ja.
Was gibt es?
Einen Elefanten.
Einen Elefanten.
Ja. Applaus. Sehr gut. Ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Klasse.
Ja.
Ja.
Gibt es nur einen Elefanten?
Ja.
Ja.
Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt keinen Fisch, kein Mädchen und keine Pizza. Nur einen Elefanten. Catherine,
Ja.
gibt es keinen Fisch oder einen Fisch?
Keinen Fisch.
Ja, es gibt keinen Fisch. Catherine,
Ja.
gibt es ein Mädchen oder kein Mädchen?
Kein Mädchen.
Ja, es gibt kein Mädchen. Na klar, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Catherine,
Ja.
was ist, es gibt nur einen Elefanten auf Englisch? What is the, I almost said it in English. What is, es gibt nur einen Elefanten?
There is only an elephant.
Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. There is only an elephant. Angela, are you able to respond? If you are, just go ahead and speak. If you're not, you can just type in the chat. Gut. So, Klasse,
Ja.
Ja.
gibt es einen Bären oder keinen Bären?
Keine Bären.
Bären.
Ja, es gibt keinen Bären. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Ja?
Ja.
Ja.
Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Linnea,
Ja.
gibt es nur... Hallo Lisa! Gibt es nur einen Elefanten oder gibt es nur ein Mädchen?
Nur eine Elefantin.
Ja, Applaus für Linnea, sehr gut. Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt kein Mädchen. Na klar. Linnea,
Ja.
gibt es eine Pizza?
Nein.
Ja, genau. Es gibt keine Pizza. Linnea, was gibt es?
Oh. Es gibt eine Elefantin.
Oh, Applaus für Linnea, sehr gut. Ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Und es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Colette,
Ja.
gibt es nur eine Pizza oder einen Elefanten?
Einen Elefanten.
Ja, einen Elefanten. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt keine Pizza, oder? Ja?
Ja.
Ja, gut. Ja. Okay. Jetzt Deutsch, German. Or all German, rather, because that was German, but Okay, oh, we don't want that. We want this. Klasse,
Ja.
es gibt einen Elefanten. Oh. Gibt es nur einen Elefanten, Klasse?
Ja.
Ja.
Ja, sehr gut. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt keinen Fisch, keinen Bären. Es gibt kein Mädchen und keine Pizza. Genau? Ja, genau. Gut. Sehr gut, Klasse. Catherine,
Ja.
was gibt es?
Es gibt einen Elefanten.
Applaus für Catherine! Genau. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Linnea,
Ja.
gibt es nur einen Elefanten?
Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten.
Ja, Applaus für Linnea! Ja, ja, Linnea. Na klar. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Ja. Colette,
Ja.
gibt es einen Fisch?
Keine.
Ja, sehr gut. Ja, es gibt keinen Fisch. Applaus für Colette. Ja, es gibt keinen Fisch. Oh. Schade. Es gibt keine Fisch. Oh. Colette,
Ja.
gibt es einen Elefanten oder... no, tut mir leid. Sorry, once more. Gibt es einen Bären oder gibt es keinen Bären?
Keinen Bärchen.
Ja, sehr gut. Es gibt keinen Bären. Colette,
Ja.
was gibt es?
Gibt es nur einen Elefanten?
Applaus für Colette, sehr gut. Colette, ja. Was gibt es? Es gibt einen Elefanten. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Genau. Ja. Linnea,
Ja.
gibt es ein Mädchen?
Es gibt keinen. Oh, Mädchen. Keine Mädchen?
Ja, es gibt kein
Kein Mädchen.
Mädchen.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to turn this on, I think. Ja, es gibt
okay.
kein Mädchen. Ja. Es gibt nur was, Linnea?
Nur was?
Ja, was?
Es gibt einen Elefanten.
Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Applaus für Linnea. Ja, gut. Lisa,
Hi.
now you just joined, so you can answer with just a ja oder nein. You can just answer with yes or no. Or if you feel like the sentence is just going to come out, then you can say it. But ja oder nein is okay. Yes or no is okay. Lisa,
Hm?
gibt es einen Elefanten?
Ja, es
Ja.
gibt nur einen Elefanten.
Oh, Applaus für Lisa, sehr gut. Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Lisa,
Ja,
gibt es einen Fisch oder keinen Fisch?
es gibt keinen Fisch.
Ja, es gibt keinen Fisch. Schade. Lisa?
Hi. Ja.
はい。そうですね。魚がいますか？ Sorry. Yeah. So, yeah. Lisa,
Ja,
gibt es einen Bären oder gibt es keinen Bären?
gibt es keinen Bären.
Ja, es gibt keinen Bären. Schade. Ja. Klasse.
Ja.
Gibt es eine Pizza?
Nein.
Nein.
Ja, keine Pizza. Ja, es gibt keine Pizza. Klasse.
Ja.
Gibt es ein... Oh, das ist German. Gibt es ein Schwein?
Nein.
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 Ja, nein. Es gibt kein Schwein. Gibt es ein Lamm?
Nein.
Nein.
Ja, es gibt kein Lamm. Genau. Klasse.
Ja.
Gibt es eine Cola?
Nein.
Nein.
Ja, es gibt keine Cola. Gibt es eine Katze?
Nein.
That's German.
Oh.
Ja. Ja, es gibt keine Katze. Es gibt keinen Fisch. Es gibt keinen Bären. Es gibt keinen Hund. Ja. Es gibt keinen Hund. Es gibt kein Mädchen, kein Schwein, kein Lamm, keine Pizza, keine Cola oder eine Katze. Ja, genau. Let's see. Catherine,
Ja.
gibt es eine Katze?
Nein. Es gibt keine Katze.
Ja, genau. Es gibt keine Katze. Gibt es, this really should say, however, gibt es aber eine Cola?
Nein. Es gibt keine Cola.
Ja, na klar.
Ja.
Es gibt keine Cola. Linnea,
Ja.
gibt es eine Katze oder gibt es keine Katze?
Gibt es keine Katze?
Ja, es gibt keine Katze. Genau. Schade. Es gibt keine Katze. Linnea,
Ja.
gibt es ein Schwein?
Es gibt keine Schwein.
Ja, es
Kein
gibt
Schwein.
Ja, sehr gut. Applaus für Linnea. Ja, es gibt kein Schwein. Gibt es aber ein Lamm, Linnea?
Es gibt kein Lamm.
Ja, es gibt kein Lamm. Applaus für Linnea. Woohoo. Colette,
Ja.
gibt es ein Lamm?
Nein. Es gibt einen Elefanten.
Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Na klar. Es gibt kein Lamm. Colette,
Ja.
gibt es einen Bären?
Nein.
Ja, nein.
Aber
Ja, aber?
einen Elefanten.
Ja, aber einen Elefanten. Ja, aber es gibt einen Elefanten. Applaus für Colette. Sehr gut. Ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Es gibt keinen Hund, aber es gibt einen Elefanten. Lisa,
Ja,
gibt es ein Schwein?
nein, es gibt keinen Schwein.
Ja, es gibt kein Schwein. Es gibt nur einen
Kein
Elefanten.
Schwein.
Ja, genau. Lisa,
Ja,
gibt es ein Lamm oder kein Lamm?
es gibt kein Lamm.
Ja, es gibt kein Lamm. Genau. Okay, so what we're going to do now before we finish with our German lesson is we're going to beschreibe die Situation. We're going to describe the situation. So in the interest of time, I'm simply going to have Catherine demonstrate how beschreibe die Situation goes because she knows how this goes. So let's just give you 1 Minute und 11 Sekunden. So what she's going to do is she's going to describe the story using whatever language she wants to use from what we've learned here. And she's going to ramble, literally just ramble and repeat herself and say, her own version of the story. Okay? She's going to create poetry before our eyes. Okay? So now I feel like I'm putting the pressure on. Well, okay, I'll just do it. I'll do it once because it's only 1 Minute und 11 Sekunden and take some of the pressure off. So, sehr gut. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Es gibt einen Elefanten, aber es gibt keinen Fisch. Es gibt keinen Fisch. Es gibt keinen Bären. Es gibt keinen Hund. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten und es gibt kein Mädchen, kein Schwein oder ein Lamm. Es gibt keine Pizza und keine Cola oder eine Katze. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten und keinen Fisch, keinen Bären, keinen Hund, kein Mädchen, kein Schwein, kein Lamm, keine Pizza, keine Cola oder eine Katze. Gut. Die Zeit ist um. Applaus für mich! Yay! Okay, Catherine, beschreibe die Situation, bitte.
Es gibt einen Elefanten. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt keinen Fisch, aber es gibt einen Elefanten. Es gibt keinen Bären und es gibt auch keinen Hund, aber es gibt einen Elefanten. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten.
Ja.
Es gibt kein Mädchen und kein Schwein oder ein Lamm. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Was gibt es?
Oh.
Es gibt einen Elefanten,
Ja.
aber es gibt keine Pizza und keine Cola oder eine Katze. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten.
Ja. Es gibt nur
gibt
einen Elefanten.
Elefanten.
Applaus! Sehr gut! Die Zeit ist um. Okay, so jetzt, now, all of you are going to mute yourselves and you're going to beschreibe die Situation to me as though I could hear you. And you're going to say what there is and what there is not. But before we do, gibt es Fragen? Are there any questions?
Nein,
Es
nein.
gibt keine Fragen. Es gibt keine Fragen. Oh. Okay, good. Not that having questions would be bad. Just saying good to say good. Gut. Okay, so jetzt, now, beschreibe die Situation. Describe the situation. 3, 2, 1, los. Die Zeit ist um. Applaus für uns. Applaus für us. Gut. Who would like to beschreibe die Situation first? And unmute yourself and just go ahead and give it a whirl. Oh, Lisa has a presentation. Can you beschreibe die Situation before you leave?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, do it. Go. You start and then I'll start the timer.
Okay. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Es gibt keinen Fisch, einen Bären, einen Hund. Es gibt kein Maden, kein Schwein, ein Lahmen. Es gibt keine Pizza, eine Cola, eine Katze. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten.
Gibt es einen Bären, Lisa?
Es gibt keinen Bären.
Ja, es gibt keinen Bären. Gibt es aber ein Mädchen?
Es gibt kein Mädchen.
Ja, es gibt kein Mädchen. Gibt es ein Schwein?
Es gibt kein Schwein.
Ja, Applaus für Lisa. Sehr gut. That was like, what, 20 minutes of class, you know? You didn't even get all the meaning stuff before. You're just like, what am I seeing? Well, you got some of this, but yeah.
It was really
Gut.
intuitive, so yeah.
Ja, die
Okay.
Zeit ist für dich. Du musst leider gehen. You must unfortunately go. I hope your presentation goes well.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks
This
for
was really
dropping
fun.
in.
Thanks so much. See ya.
Tschüss. Bye. Okay, wer ist dran? Who is up? Whose turn is it? Okay, I'll choose. Linnea, go.
Okay. Es gibt einen Elefanten. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Gibt es einen Fisch? Nein. Es gibt einen Elefanten.
Mm.
Es gibt keinen Fisch und keinen Bären. Oder
Mhm.
einen Hund.
Mm.
Es gibt nur einen Elefanten.
Ah, genau.
Es gibt keine Pizza, und keine Cola oder eine Katze. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten.
Ja.
Gibt es ein Schwein? Nein, es gibt einen Elefanten.
Ja, sehr gut. Applaus für Linnea. Sehr gut. Ja. Gibt es ein Schwein? Nein, es gibt kein Schwein. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Gibt es eine Pizza? Nein, es gibt keine Pizza. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Genau. Colette, du bist dran. Was gibt es und was gibt es nicht? What is there not?
Es gibt keinen Fisch.
Oh.
Es gibt keinen Bären,
Mhm.
keinen Hund, aber es gibt einen Elefanten. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt kein Mädchen. Es gibt kein Schwein. Au. Es gibt kein Lamm.
Ja, genau.
Es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt keine Pizza. Es gibt keine Cola. Auch es gibt keine Katze. Es gibt nur einen Elefanten.
Applaus für Colette. Sehr, sehr gut. Ja, es gibt nur einen Elefanten. Es gibt keine Pizza. Es gibt keine Cola. Auch gibt es keine Katze. Ja, es gibt nur den Elefanten. Ja, es gibt nur den Elefanten. Oh, thanks, Glenda. Good. Okay, jetzt we're going to wrap up the language portion, and I'm going to talk very briefly about what in the heck I was doing, so that you can apply this perhaps to your English classes, or any other language if you teach another language, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Yeah. So in the interest of time, that's what I'm going to do. So here we go. So TPRS, as you felt, is a language acquisition method, meaning that we're acquiring the language through meaning, which we just did. And you did beautifully. So Stephen Krashen had his what is it? No, it's failing me. Input hypothesis theory. No, whatever. That you need there we go. Comprehensible input hypothesis, that you need comprehensible input in order to acquire language. And while this is true, it's not the end of the story. Bill Van Patten talks about how we need an interaction as well with comprehended input in order to gain any kind of fluency, which we just had. I gave you all sorts of comprehended input. I say comprehended because it's input that you understood. You understood what I was saying because you saw the meaning on the screen before you saw all the German. So you knew what I was saying, and it was comprehensible, comprehended input. And then we interacted, and that's what allows for the fluency. Just like with any language acquisition method, it's very slow at first, and the slower we go at the beginning, the better it is for students because they can fill in all of those gaps in their language acquisition. If we go too fast, they're going to have all these holes, and it's like Swiss cheese. And while Swiss cheese is a good cheese, it's not when it comes to language acquisition. And so therefore it takes time, and we, acquire this fluency through copious repetition. I mean, how many times did I say, es gibt einen Elefanten? And how many times did you say it? And then all those times did you hear it? I mean, it was a lot, and it's still not strong and healthy yet. It takes a ridiculous amount of repetitions. But we need enough novelty to keep us engaged. So that's why we had all of those different nouns. We had the lamb and the fish and the cat and the pizza. It's enough variety for the total beginner because you're just trying to understand what I'm saying. So we don't need a lot. We don't need this crazy, ridiculous, super easy story or interesting story. We just need understanding. And that releases a lot of dopamine, and that keeps it novel enough that we continue to remain engaged. There are three main components to TPRS. There's circling, triangling, and describe the situation. And you saw all three of those today in our class. Circling is when you ask a question to the whole group. That's why it's called circling, because it's a circle. And you're asking everyone, and everyone answers with just a short answer. You always start with a yes answer. Always. Your first question is a yes. So I asked you, gibt es einen Elefanten? Is there an elephant? The answer is yes. And then as the teacher, I must verify the response, meaning I say it back and I say it in a complete sentence. So you get another repetition. Your mind is ready to hear the language again because you just said, oh ja. And then I say, ja, es gibt einen Elefanten. Then I can go to any variety of questions. I can ask a no question, I can ask an either or question, or I can ask who, what, where, when, which, why, how many, blah, 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 blah. I did a lot of no or either or because it's very early on in the beginning. And I always verify the response. Now, this verify negative and positive business, I did that a little bit later after I'd introduced to you how to say keinen Bären, keinen Fisch. At first, I didn't. I only verified the positive. I asked you, gibt es ein Mädchen? And you said nein. And I said, ja, nein, es gibt einen Elefanten, right? But then later, when you knew how to say not, then I verified both. I said, nein, es gibt kein Mädchen. Es gibt einen Elefanten. And I add the nur so that there's a stronger meaning. So you get, oh yeah, there's only an elephant. So there can't be a bear or a girl or any of these other things. Okay, so that's circling. And that's what you start with. Pros to circling. You get a lot of early repetitions. It facilitates processing of the language. And the only thing it really shows, however, is the processing speed of students. I can see how long it takes them to respond in a short answer. And that tells me how quickly they're processing the language in their heads. But unfortunately, that's all it tells me. It doesn't tell me anything else. It can give me a little hint into their production, but not much, because they're just saying einen Elefanten. They're saying ja or nein. You know, this doesn't give you a lot of information. It just gives the students an opportunity to process the meaning of what you're saying, to hear the sounds, to prepare them for production. Because why do we learn a language? To speak, right? So then we move into triangling. And triangling is a triangle. And the point is to one student. So it's from the teacher to the student. I'm asking one student, and the student usually answers in complete sentences. Now, I do something a little bit differently in the way that I use Tprs, and we saw that today, that when you only see the clarified meaning on the screen, then you don't answer in a complete sentence unless it just comes out and you can say it. But then when you can see and you can read, then you're using the complete sentences. And then the teacher should always verify. Doesn't matter if the student said it wrong or right, none of that matters. You verify, ja, es gibt einen Elefanten, oder ja, es gibt kein Mädchen. And you verify it back to the student. Now, if they make a factual error, like there was one point where Colette said nein to gibt es einen Elefanten? And she said nein. And I was like, what? Nein, es gibt einen Elefanten. There he is. So those factual errors, we do correct kind of really over the top incredulously, because it's not something that the student did wrong. It's a objective fact. And so we can kind of laugh about it like, oh yeah, oh, right. There is an elephant. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, but we always verify after the student what they say. And then we correct, I put that in huge quotations, their language by simply saying it back in the accurate way if they made any kind of little things. And then we just see if they hear it or not. We cannot make a student ready to hear something when they're not ready to hear it. And so we have to say it over and over and over, and we verify over and over. We create an environment saturated with Easter eggs. These little things that a student can find in the environment, but we hide them in plain sight. It's like an Easter egg hunt for toddlers. You got to put the things right in front of their face. And having said that, what is our Easter egg?
Yes, our Easter egg is, well, we have number 2, and it's the Blue Bayou.
The Blue Bayou. So
Yes.
if you are participating in that,
Yeah.
then there you go. You want to type it in the chat?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So that's triangling. The pros to triangling is that it's only one sentence. So the student doesn't have to manage a lot of language yet. And it's also a sentence and not a word. You know, it's a full sentence. You can start to observe the robustness of their language. So you can see how much hesitancy there is. You can also observe their accuracy. Now, accuracy is not something that we're fighting or, you know, that we're saying, oh, it's got to be accurate. It's got to be accurate. No, 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 no. The accuracy is a barometer for their understanding. The more accurate a student is, the more we as a teacher know the strength of the language because they're accurate. The cons to triangling is that you're only asking one student at a time in a live class. Online, we can have people mute and pretend like they're the student we're asking, but I don't get to hear that. So that's still kind of a con. And it doesn't show the level of integration of language because they're only speaking in one sentence. But that's what describe the situation is for. So describe the situation, one of the biggest things it does is it slows the teacher down, because as language teachers, we always go too fast. We have ease in the language. It's easy for us. We project the ease of our ability to speak the language onto our students and assume that they must be bored with this limited language because we're bored. Not bored like, oh my God, I want this to be over. Maybe sometimes, but you know, for us, it's super easy. We're on top of the mountain, but the students are down in the weeds, you know? So describe the situation. Listening to other students describe the situation slows us down. It gives needed repetition because the students need more repetition. It gives the teacher a snapshot of the acquired language because we get to hear what the student says. And that tells you what is going on in the student's brain. And then that shows their level of integration because you can see what they're speaking. And then, like we talked about with recalibrating to true north, then I can see quite clearly what the heck is going on with my students, and it writes my lesson plan for me. I know, okay, not moving on. Going to add a new storyline, new character that's using the same structure, but different words. And this helps me recalibrate my teaching so it can be more effective for students. Describe the situation. What is it? It's a manageable chunk. I don't know why this says chunks, but it's a manageable chunk. And what is a manageable chunk? We actually don't know until we create a chunk of language and then have the students describe the situation. And we say, oh, okay, we need to stay here. Or, wow, that was really manageable. They just said that, fine. So we don't actually know until we test it. But we do know that a chunk is at least 2 sentences or more. Okay. And I know I'm really going fast, but I'm just aware that we enjoyed. I still have 12 minutes, I think, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay, that's what my timer says. I'm just checking that's right. Okay, so describe the situation. Some more notes about that is that we want to do it early and often. We want, you know, on our online classes, we can use the mute function. So we have the students, we show an example like I did, and then we have the students mute and they get an opportunity to do it without any pressure. Because when our effective filter is up, we suffer, right? So it gives us a chance to try it out. Then, oh, I didn't do this. I forgot to do this, but we do a confidence assessment. So I ask you, how long did you talk? This isn't confidence, but how long did you talk? I talked 100% of the time, even with some hesitation, but I made it to the end. This is 50% of the time or more. This is less than 50% of the time or more. You can have them type A, B, or C in the chat. That also works. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is your confidence about your production. How confident were you? I don't care about accuracy because that's going to come as you do it more. Confidence is what's going to put you in the motivation mindset to interact with media or other speakers of the language. So I need you to be really confident that you're going to try something out. Okay. So you show me your confidence with your fingers. I'm not going to get into that right now. You'll always end class with the describe the situation, which we did. And the teacher, I almost broke this rule, but it's not really a rule, it's just guidelines. But the teacher describes the situation before students. Have a few students model for the class. I did that. I had one student model. And from an individual's perspective, you always retell the story from your individual perspective. So Linnea tells it from her perspective. Colette tells it from her perspective. Our story was really short today because we had very short amount of time. So there were no perspectives to tell it from. But you can also indicate another perspective. You could say, okay, Linnea, now tell it from Willy the elephant. So now tell it from Willy the elephant's perspective. And you're going to talk saying I blah, 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 and talk about the other people in second. You always talk to the teacher about the teacher in second person, always. And I talk to the students in second person, and the students talk about themselves in first person, and they talk about other students in third person, which is important in all languages. Thank you, Linnea, so much. Wow, I'm really just flying through this, but the experience was the most important. So we got that done, which is why I put that first. So yeah, always saying it from your perspective. And yeah, there we go. So the only one that might have had questions is Linnea. She's gone because Colette, you and I went through this.
Yeah. And I think we spoke about why you had, like, at first I thought having all the options at the top and the bottom were a little bit confusing, and explained that, at first all of that is not there, but as you gradually progress through the lesson, you put the words up, so that would have been helpful to see.
Right. So all of this stuff on the side here wasn't there when we started. And this was also all blank when we started. And I just bring it up as it's needed. And I take it away too. If we, there's this whole thing with gibt es and es gibt. Like that takes a while to kind of get. So I, take this away and, all that stuff. So
yeah, because I'm thinking of it from like the students
as a student
I teach, like they would be so confused. They're like, I don't know where to look, where should I look? So it's nice that it goes up gradually and you can erase just if you find that the students are clustering or they're just not getting it.
How was your experience the second time?
I was much more confident. I could have given like a 5.
Yeah.
I was a bit more confident. So yeah, gradually with the repetition and knowing, exactly what to do, like that does help a lot.
And I think it's important for teachers to hear. Did you feel bored?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Yeah. Right. That's your second lesson with the same exact language.
Yeah.
And it was far from boring because you're like, what am I saying?
Because it's a lot more, like you're still getting a lot more sensitivity.
Yeah. So Catherine is probably at the level where she's dipping into periods of like, okay, because she's a teacher, she's a language teacher. So she can use that to keep her going, right? But she's going to experience, because she's had over 30 hours of German with me, she's going to experience some periods where, well, I shouldn't speak for her. Actually, I'll let her speak about it. But perhaps she was experiencing some moments of like, wow, okay, I think I'm starting to maybe reach that point of like, all right, I've heard this enough times. I don't know. What do you think, Catherine? What was your experience?
Yeah, I wasn't bored, but yeah, as you say, I'm looking at it from a teacher's perspective and interested to see how other students are interacting with the content and all of that. But and it was quite short, so I don't think there was time to feel bored. And if it had gone longer, it would have included more language, and that in itself would be interesting. So yeah, I don't know. We haven't met that threshold yet.
Oh, we haven't found it yet. We haven't found the bottom of too slow. I've been going slower and slower as I've been doing this more and more. But this is what I don't know, third or fourth time with this, no, fifth time with the same class.
The first lesson, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But again, she's also coming from a language teacher's perspective. So there's things that she can draw out of it. Catherine, and I think Colette was going to say something, but
So this would have been a first lesson. Like if I came to you and be like, I want to learn
yes,
German, like this would have
yes,
been perfect.
yes. Yep. It would have been longer. It would have been 90 minutes though.
Okay. And usually,
And there would have been more setup. Sorry. Yeah.
like, do you pre-prep vocabulary before doing the lessons, or it's just learn as you go, like just complete immersion?
Yep. And it's also a lot of improv. Now, in the first lessons, I've done, this is the several times that I've done this German lesson. So I kind of know which cognates I'm going to use because the sun's coming. I'm ascending to the other side. So I kind of have that prepared, right? And I obviously created the slides and I prepared those. But yeah, a demo is, a demo, and a demo is really prepared. And, the first lessons, Catherine's been through it twice now, as a long-term student, because I ran a German class since April, and she started in that one. And now I've just started a new one on Saturdays, 6 a.m. Korean time this past month in October. And what am I saying? I don't know. Anyway, that those first classes are somewhat planned. But really with TPRS, we need to get good with improv. We need to get good with limiting our language and being creative with the limited language that we're using. And just go slowly. So slowly. And that's really challenging to do, especially if we're teaching our native language. That's really challenging to do. Really challenging. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah. So I made the slide that you saw, and that slide will last me 25 hours.
Oh, wow.
Because I use the word wall to put up words that come up. And then I use the little fiddly bits of the language, those little tiny, like the, and weil, and, all the words that you saw around the outside. Those are like little boats that connect you between language islands. And so you can just go around to these different islands, and you don't need to create all of, now kids, maybe because, kids, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't teach kids with TPRS. What's that?
You only do adults.
Yeah, I only teach adults with TPRS. I do teach kids, but not with TPRS because I'm not in an environment where I could use TPRS.
You think it would be effective for kids?
Oh, I mean, it was born out of teaching language to kids.
Okay.
So it was originally born out of teaching Spanish to high schoolers, but then quickly got adapted to teach it to all grade levels. And now it's being adapted way more for other languages. And yeah, so it's just different things that, I mean, Catherine uses it.
I teach primary school children.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. She's teaching Japanese to wee ones. So.
Okay. So if
we're at 1 minute left.
Can we just unmute our microphones and give Nathan a round of applause for an
Thank you.
That was really well done.
Thank you.
A lot. And maybe one day I can use it in my classes. I need to go do all that preparation for the PowerPoint though. So
I'll just give you the PowerPoint. You change it to English.
Yeah, yeah, that would be lovely.
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So yeah, guys, if you want to continue this conversation further, as Nathan said in the beginning, you can always jump over to Discord. The conversation is always happening there. So
Good.
thank you for coming, and
Yes,
enjoy
thank
the
you.
rest of the conference.
Thank you. And good luck to who's presenting next? Are they here?